Last year I did the end of 2024 video and everyone seemed to like the feedback on it. So this year I decided to do the same and do an end of 2025 video. As per usual, I'll try and focus mainly more on the drier side. Now I'm going to start off with the community. This is something that I don't really usually talk about, and this is because I personally don't feel like I have a massive say in the community as opposed to other well-established members. However, given the fact that I've been tagged in several controversies, I've decided to express my own opinion about the community as of this year. Compared to 2023, this community has just evolved into a massive hellhole to the point where people are obsessing over DDJ, people causing drama over minor details, and so on. It's really sad to see this community go such a path to the point where well-established members are even considering leaving this community. I never thought things would evolve to a point like this, but unfortunately it did. Luckily no one has left the community yet, but I don't know if I can say the same for 2026. I hope 2026 can be a more peaceful year for this community. However, with communities being brought in like the Gacha and the anti-YouTube trolling police, I don't see that being a possibility. Anyways, with that depressing note out the way, let's go ahead and actually talk about the driest ones. This year I found some more particularly interesting finds. Last year I'd say my most rare find was this PHS dryer that I found in Wimpy and Birkenhead. However, because it branched out to more places, I found relatively more interesting finds, with Wicks mainly being one of the most interesting places I've visited to. For instance, in Wicks Aintree I managed to find this rare Ventaxia dryer, whereas if we go over to a Wicks that I won't disclose of, I managed to find this rare Red Wing dryer. I was also one of the very few members to find a well-dried PHS Air Max at an Odeon, which was very interesting to me, as I never go to Odeon branches, and the fact I got rewarded with this was nice to see. I was also one of the very first few to find a PHS-1 Howard SM48, however not the ones you're thinking. I managed to find the 820 watt versions, these newer ones. I can definitely say for a fact that these are better than the Cylon ones. Now then, let's move over to replacements. Firstly, let's start off with the Costa within Next at Church Street. For a bit of context, this C1 here has failed for quite a while, and this is a take that I managed to get before the replacement.
Right, there's the C1 at Costa Church Street. This has been here for a while now. It's still dead, obviously, but just keep up blue roll every time. I wonder if they'll ever replace that.
Now you've seen that clip, I'll give you a bit of context. Basically, both of these toilets had C1s, made in March 2020. The one in the unisex toilet eventually died, likely because the place is relatively high traffic, as almost every time I go here, there's at least a queue. The dryer then eventually died, and then it got replaced with a dry flow HKJ 05S. And I'm glad I didn't replace it with a blue dry dryer. You'd think that would end there, but you'd be very wrong. As if we go over to the accessible toilet, that dryer is also dead. I wonder what they'll replace it with. Hopefully not a blue dry eco dry though. Now then, let's go over to McDonald's in Lord Street. The HKJ4S on the right eventually died, likely because of how much traffic the place gets. Eventually the place shut down to get refurbished. Miraculously, all these three dryers survived. However, the ground floor toilets were shut off, meaning that more traffic would be diverted to the second floor toilets. Eventually, the dryer on the left had its cover come off a few times, and the C1 eventually died, likely because of how much use it got. Once the C1s died, they eventually provided paper towels. They got replaced with air dry quartos, which is very interesting, and I think they lended these dryers from Church Street's branch. However, I am very glad quasars were not used. However, the HKJ on the right still remains despite being dead. I wonder what's going to happen to that. And now my final replacement that I'd like to mention is Costa within Next at Cheshire Oaks. When I first visited here, I was greeted to a dead C1. Now luckily, I was able to film it in its state before the replacement. I eventually got a second take of this dryer. The first take, the dryer was just dead. Nothing around it saying it was dead. All you had to do was just put your hand under the dryer and its green light would show up and its blue light would also emit. But it would just be dead because the motor did not function. Second time I went, staff were aware, they shut off the dryer and provided blue roll as well as a bin. And then the third time I came here, the dryer eventually got replaced with, rather interestingly, not an eco-dry, but a light blue storm. I suspect they tried to order an eco-dry, but couldn't find any or they were out of stock, so they had to resort to a blue storm. Not the best replacement, but it could be much worse. There are also many other replacements that I could mention here, but I don't want to waste your time, and these are the ones that I really want to highlight. You know me by now, I like to do a good poll when it comes to these type of videos, and this year is no exception. Let's start off with the first poll. I'll give my community a list of dryers that I personally thought were pretty rare. A Ventaxia Model 1000 manufactured by S&P, a well-dry PHSA Max, a black hair-dry Quasar, and a Zinda GSQ80. Out of all the options, the well-dry PHSA Max won by a margin, scoring at around 75%. The S&P dryer came in at around 13%, with the GSQ80 coming in at 9%, and the Quasar coming in at 4%. It is definitely safe to say that my community thinks that the PHSA Max was the most rarest dryer that I found as of this year. And the other poll that I did was regarding hand dryer reliability, as this was quite literally the main topic of this year. The four options were air dry, Mitsubishi, XL dryer, and well dryer, and out of all the options, air dry was significantly voted the worst out there in terms of its reliability. Well dryer and XL dryer came in behind at 6%, and no one voted for Mitsubishi. I find this interesting, especially for Mitsubishi, as they do make some weird sounds, however none of them have failed, which probably explains why no one's voted for it. And these are my polls as of this year. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in my 3-year anniversary video. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.